What's up, everybody? Welcome to Dev Diary number 5 for the closeout of 1.0. Thank you, everyone, for your awesome contributions to our ongoing playtest data inquiry.
Heck yeah.
I like that.
We're going to go over some changes for this week and some card contest stuff. Not some significant stuff anymore, but enough. We're on the enough one way or the other part of balancing things. So what we got today, Coshade?
What's going on, guys? I'm Coshade. Also, we got Shark here. What's up?
They know who you are.
No, just saying
Dev
names.
number 5.
Just saying names. So we're in the middle of playtesting, and this is one of those phases where a lot of people that I feel like, started are probably taking a few weeks off, so we are seeing some less stuff. We have a cat in the background. So it's one of those things that,
Welcome to streaming with Coshade.
we're seeing a lot of less games right now, which is totally fine. I mean, we had, 4th of July and a bunch of other stuff happen that was just sort of compounding on itself. That being said,
tough.
We do have a number of changes to talk about, and some other things we're watching and things to just keep aware of. And so let's just talk about the elemental stats stuff.
All right.
So, do you want to take the Shark?
Sure, if you want. All right, so
You sounded like you want to talk about it. So I was like, yeah.
I mean, that's what we're here to do. We're talking about it. All right, so some minor changes to this one.
Yeah.
And as soon as I bring the tab back up, I am just clicking all over the place.
I can get
All
it,
right,
man.
so
No, that's fine. Oh.
all of the glyphs may not be explicitly stated before. I don't think they were, but when you cast and resolve is when you actually activate them. Being clear with that, cast and resolve. So that way you don't get any weird jinx shenanigans. Like, you can be jinxed and not get your glyphs. You can be nullified and not get your glyphs after resolve. The next thing, the Earth Glyph is taking a minor change in that it is now, going to be lined up with the Water Glyph as the two, we're calling them defensive glyphs, and they activate now during the upkeep, and you'll pay 2 mana for each of them. The Water Glyph will effectively give you regenerate 2 without the keyword regenerate, just heal you 2. And the Earth Glyph will give you armor +2 until the end of the round.
Which is a huge step up from its usefulness before, but you broadcast that you're being defensive for the round.
Yep. And then the other part of note, I think air was only 2 last round, right?
Yes,
we don't have it on here, but
only
air is now
2.
3.
Yeah.
Air's now 3.
Air's now 3.
Changed everything.
A little bit of nerfs. So people weren't using the Earth Glyph, and they were mainly using it just to gain mana. So we're hoping that getting armor 2 for the entire round feels similar enough to something like like when you'd activate a Voltaic Shield. Granted, it's probably better than Voltaic Shield. I guess more like Brace Yourself. We're hoping that people actually see a use for it then.
It's a more expensive, less awesome Brace Yourself.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But it doesn't cost a
Doesn't cost spellbook points.
Doesn't cost.
Well, I guess in a way it kind of does. Either way, it's still good. Yeah, it's a free action. Right. That's all we got on that one, right?
Yep.
All right then.
Elemental Mill. We brought this down to have all the resistances -1, because the -2 was a bit too much for 8 mana, and we added the frost resistance as well to just coincide with how the armor works. This should allow it to be just more balanced and in line. I don't think anyone's going to change if they want to use it or not based on that, but I think it's just a change that was needed for this card.
Mm-hmm. At least for 8 mana. Otherwise, we can make it more expensive. But
Elementalist was quite hard to damage.
Yeah.
Was? No.
That's so true.
No, he's good. All right. That's a pretty simple change. Not a whole lot to talk about there, right?
Yep.
However, let's ruin
Drake.
everybody's day. Yeah. Let's make the details fun.
Yeah, we rewrote this one a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're giving the Drake a buff. You want to take it, Shark? Or...
No, you go ahead. It's all you, man.
So
you're working on the writing, so
we're seeing a lot less use. Yeah, sorry if the writing's confusing, but we're seeing a lot less use of the Drake in favor of just Battleforge and Pandemonium, and we're hoping that the Drake has some sort of use in this. So we expanded on the idea of the glyph being placed onto it. And the idea that we're trying to go with here is that if that glyph is active, you gain the effects of that glyph onto the Drake, just passively.
passively. You don't have to pay for it.
You don't have to pay for it. So, you'd heal 2 during upkeep if you had the water glyph. A lot of people are choosing water glyphs. We're trying to give people reasons to, I don't know, say like maybe I want my familiar to have earth and have 4 armor. I'll just keep the earth glyph on him active, not use it for anything else, and then throw rocks with him or something. This might be too strong, but we're trying to encourage use of it to see if where it goes from here. He's supposed to be a cool creature, and we're trying to make it that. So that's essentially what we're doing. You can still do all the other stuff you did before, where you can activate or deactivate the glyph to use it for various things that the Elementalist can do. This is just giving it a little added benefit. We have notes here that the Elemental Drake, it's kind of tough to cast spells with him because there aren't a lot of spells in each of those schools that he can cast. So I guess, the best thing I can say is just maybe this will give him that extra incentive to not only choose water for Dissolve and Surging Wave.
Yep. Try and incentivize and see what happens.
Yep.
Come break him for us.
That's the Drake.
Yep.
Stormfront Elemental.
I think we should go over Drake a little bit more here.
Sure. Yeah. What's up?
Let's clarify who activates the glyph on the Drake.
Okay, yeah. So basically, your mage activates and deactivates it. And so basically, okay, so your Elementalist can activate or deactivate it with his glyph ability. So if he wants to add plus, dice to his attack roll or another creature's attack roll, he can use the fire glyph on the Drake to add that dice there.
To any other creatures within line of sight of the Drake.
Is it line of sight with him? I believe it is, right?
Yeah.
Caster results, you may activate the glyph and match the school. Each glyph.
I'd have to reread the Elementalist, but I think it is.
I don't know if it actually does.
Is it not?
No, it is.
It
is target friendly creature.
Yeah, target friendly creature
friendly
gains
creature.
the benefit of the glyph. So the Elementalist would have to be able to see the Drake and see the friendly creature that was getting targeted.
Yes, you would have to do that. Yeah, that's how it's written right now. Yeah.
Does the Drake casting a spell reactivate the glyph?
He gains the glyph, but in terms of how it activates or deactivates, it's specific under the mage, the Elementalist, how it activates and deactivates. So it wouldn't change with him.
Okay, so you are transferring the casting of all of those spells to the Drake, but you are not transferring the activation of the glyph to the Drake. It's very important.
Yes.
So you may actually have to cast your own spells to reactivate the glyph.
Yes, currently that's how it's
if it gets deactivated.
That's right, yeah.
Yep.
Just so that everybody is playing the same way.
That's fair.
And giving us the same test data. All right, I am ready to move on.
That's not actually new for how he works. That's actually just been how he's been for a few weeks.
That's been the intent the whole time. Just may not have been clear from our wording.
I haven't seen anyone confuse that yet, but I suppose it's good to go over that.
I think I told people that the Drake was the one that activated the glyph once it was transferred.
No worries.
Which is how I was originally understanding it. So I wanted to get the clarity there.
You're all good, man. You're all good. That's what playtesting is for. And honestly,
just can't have 3 people on a design team.
It's way too many. I guess do we want to go over anything else with this?
I think that covers most of the stuff with the Drake, although if there's questions, we'll be glad to answer.
Yeah, and if anybody thinks of questions, feel free to, drop it in chat or in the YouTube video.
Or just direct message us, anything.
Stormfront Elemental. We dropped Legendary.
Yep.
We do have concerns that there is a Stung Lock possibility, but we think that's going to take so much mana that it's just not going to happen. But prove us wrong. We have actually nerfed him since the original card came out to have less of a stun chance. So we're hoping maybe that'll make up for that.
There's not much to talk about in this one. We just dropped Legendary. So
can we talk about why there's a big green border around the Stormfront?
Oh, it shouldn't show up in the art.
That's just a mistake. We'll fix it.
When you play an Octagon, you won't see it. If anyone does want to know, this is actually the borders that we use for when we cut cards, because basically cards are on a big sheet.
The art isn't really, or the card art is not updated for Octagon yet either. Just heads up, it'll be done soonish.
Steam Elemental. Did you guys want to do this?
I mean, this one's
not
simple.
really.
We just moved the stun to 10+ because of the same stun lock reason we've been worried about.
Yeah.
We didn't pick one yet, right? We're kind of between
We're
the two
still
still.
deciding which one to choose. We don't know. We have players using both, and I
Feedback
don't
on them
know.
would be good.
Yeah,
Like,
I
which
guess.
one do you guys like better and why?
Yeah, I guess any sort of info. Maybe use it in a game, that sort of thing, and then or just shoot us an email and just say which one you like. We'll take tallies and figure it out. Right now, I'm leaning more towards the version 2.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the full action one. Just
I think we should just leave the name as Creature Namey.
Creature Namey. You gotta love Creature Namey.
He's been renamed from Steam Elemental.
Yeah. But regardless, I'm thinking we're going with Steam Elemental V2. Anyway.
Yep, that's the one we're leaning towards. But if you have strong feelings one way or the other, please give us feedback. But otherwise, it's the same card with the 10+ stun instead of the 9+, right? It was 9.
It was 9.
It was 9, yeah.
Okay, so it is no longer 9. It's now 10. And
down
note, one of the benefits.
1/4 from 1/3.
Oh yes, one of the reasons is that your Elementalist can do it, so you can do it twice in a round. Theoretically,
yeah, it's kind of crazy actually when you think about that.
It's So
by the way, we had a really interesting rules interaction here, just so everyone knows that this doesn't block line of sight beyond. Obscured only accounts to objects itself. It doesn't count for an entire zone or anything like that. So you can absolutely
our wording's a bit obtuse,
look at a conjuration, a zone beyond Steam Elemental when it's
through the
obscured, and you can just shoot through it. So just so everyone knows, that's just how the obscured trait works.
Yep.
Tide Elemental. We actually did a bit with this.
We have arena-fied it.
So if anyone doesn't know, get out your Elementalist Academy set if you don't believe me. But this card is actually not finished, and we actually wanted to fix that with this.
Yep.
If you didn't know, basically it cut off at the very end. It didn't actually finish what it did. So we redid it. It has all the same abilities. We gave it Extinguish in its actual water attack.
Yep.
We
gave it the actual arena name for the abilities it had.
Instead of having doesn't take damage from critical, we just put Resilient because it saves space. We put Burn Proof instead of saying it doesn't gain fire or burns from fire attacks or anything like that. And instead of saying it takes +2 from Frost, we said Frost +2. Granted, that is a little bit of a nerf, the Frost +2, because it has a higher chance of
it's not
freezing.
I mean, it really isn't, because
Frost doesn't do anything to it because it's non-living.
It causes it to get lumbering, I think. But
no,
it's really not that big of a deal. If you guys are upset about that nerf, I guess blame me because I'm not changing it. But anyway, as a quick action, so to finish up that sentence, as a quick action, the Tide Elemental can remove all burn conditions from one object in the zone. That's, I'm assuming, what the original text was supposed to say. That's what we did.
Yeah,
it is.
I think it's supposed to be in Tide Elemental zone, but
can remove all burn conditions from one object.
In Tide Elemental zone.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I think it said in this zone before it went to print, but somebody decided to clarify by replacing this with Tide Elementals, which is why the whole thing got cut off.
Yeah, actually, going back up to Stormfront, this is the problem. They didn't actually follow this little green line here, and that's totally why that problem happened. If anyone wants to know how that happened.
Those green lines matter.
The green lines matter. Anyway, I mean, since this is now actually in the errata section, if it does need to be changed, buffed, or nerfed because it's not a good card, we might as well do it. I think it's a fine card as is, but if someone notices that it's just too strong, we can change it now.
My list of things to make sure it's on Octagon.
Frost Elemental.
Is it 4 dice, really?
It is a 4-die attack. It's actually a really good card.
No, it's pretty good.
If you haven't used Tide Elemental, it's actually a solid card.
Yep,
it's like a really good half level of water elemental.
So this interaction, the Frost Elemental and the Frost Golem.
Yeah, so
we
we also
came up in a playtest game we did the other day, and we were like, "Wait a
yeah,
minute,
man, talk
this
about
is
it.
not working."
Wait, why
Um,
doesn't this work in the Frost
yeah.
Tundra?
So there was an Elementalist game where there's a Frost Tundra or a Frozen Tundra out there, and Frost Elemental and Ice Golem weren't getting buffed by it. And we were looking, okay, is this a bug? And then we realized they didn't have the Frost damage type on their attacks from Academy. Like the original cards did not have the Frost damage type on them.
Yeah,
So
it was weird.
we added the Frost damage type onto them. And melting is much more punishing in Arena. So we kept the Frost Elemental the same price, but bumped the Ice Golem's melting to 1 instead of 2.
So yeah, we've arenafied these as well. They have Flame plus 2 instead of just gets a 2 additional dice against flame attacks. So it actually is a pretty big nerf in that sense. I think I said buff before. It's a nerf. So
That's a buff.
they can get burned.
Shut up, short.
So we did buff the Ice Golem a little bit with that melting 1, but this is also the only 2 frost creatures that exist. So I want us to really play these guys to really figure out, is melting worth it? You know, you compare Frost Elemental to like Bear, you know, is it like so obviously on the same level or not? So I guess when it comes to these creatures, we're now gonna have to we have to errata them, so we might as well figure out if we can do anything else to make them a solid creature instead of just making them frost
Melting.
stinks. Let's not have frost, you know, or like, let's
Let's
not
make
do
solid,
frost.
not melting. I'm just kidding.
Just to let you know, the art in Octagon should have the 2 in that air.
It will. I already fixed it. I just didn't make it for this document.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I
I don't have that.
want everybody to know that it's okay.
Yeah,
We
it's
got it. It's fine.
It's also
It'll
that
look
card art
fine.
hasn't been, or the image pack hasn't been updated yet. So
Right. And I
make sure
also
we get
want to
that.
note that the frost here doesn't have to follow typical frost rules. We could make this where it's 1 to 4, 1 freeze. You know, we could make it 5 to 10, 2
I'm sure we can
freeze.
spread it out a bit.
If we actually feel like making these creatures feeling like they're less swingy, you know, we could do something like bring Frost Elemental down to 4 and make it more, you know, what we're used to. But I don't know. I kind of like the fact that they're swingy, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. Like, if it's not ever going to be used because of that, then we should make them more usable rather
it
than.
depends on where you're sitting.
Right.
Like, hey, look, he didn't get the frost. I love it.
Well, that's one reason why I
Yeah.
like Ice Golem, right? I like Ice
Yeah.
Golem because it has a pretty high freeze chance.
Yeah.
You're probably
Um,
going to get it, you know?
But the other thing I liked about Ice Golem was that you could hit things that were frost immune with, or not with frost immune and frost resistant with it. I noticed that one
Yeah.
when I took the Ice Golem to a tournament once.
Yeah, that's
I didn't notice the frost elemental one though, which is kind of
it's
fun.
sort of interesting, right? Because
But-
like we have a lot of equipment and stuff that has frost minus, but it's like very rare that's actually useful. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But
I think
frost
it's
minus,
gonna be good with frost on it.
was it frost minus 3 on the Grizzly Bear?
It's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it definitely don't play these guys against the Grizzly Bear.
Bears will eat the frost.
They're just super. They have thick hides, obviously.
That's right. They can take the hits.
But no, I mean, so honestly, like, really, let's talk about the effects rules, guys, and let's really think, like, is this worth it as a
And-
creature type? You know?
And keep in mind the melting. Tell us if that's crippling or if it's actually.
Yeah.
I've seen cases for both. Like it's got higher life because it melts, but does it
You know,
does it do enough? Is it worth it?
honestly, it's possible these guys should have something like 2 or 3 armor, and the melting trait is really what does damage to them. And they're like, because they're ice hard, it's like hard to chip off that ice.
Yeah,
But they
that's
just
possible
are
too.
like slowly dying. I mean, there's a lot of ways we could take this, but I don't want it to be how everyone considers right now. It's a throwaway card you never use.
Let's put it this way. Would you spend money on this? Because ultimately you're gonna have to buy the pack. If you're gonna buy this and like have it be a coaster all
Yeah,
day, then we don't want
that's
to put it in
fair.
there. So
That's fair too.
let's make it worth acquiring.
Anyway, Monk, we are buffing to 105 spellbook points.
That's an easy one. Yep.
We're getting a lot of feedback. You know, I think if
It's a
we
little too low.
I think if we did something like the equivalent, it should be at 110 if you did like an Academy to Arena crossover. So we're just saying, let's try 105 right now, give it a slight buff, and see exactly where that goes from here. I mean, a lot of Monk books are looking really similar, where they're not feeling like they can fit in the kind of typical counters you're looking for, and so they're losing to things that they probably shouldn't be losing to just because they can't afford a second or third dissolve, things like that. So we're hoping this sort of like helps regulate that.
Yeah. That's an easy one to talk about, so I think the next card's the bigger change.
Yeah, so Monk was a bit strong. And we think we've pinpointed the issue, and it could be two things. It could have been that the Counter-Strike is worth 1 key, or that you Counter-Striked specifically to gain a charge token on a Fortified Resolve, which could specifically then be used to reduce damage by 2. So a lot of swarms were coming in. They were literally, I'm going to have a charge token on Fortified Resolve, reduce the swarm dice that was 3 to 4 dice, down 2 damage, and then I'm going to counter for 1 key and gain a Fortified Resolve thing. And so we're like, okay, maybe it is Counter-Strike, maybe it's not, I don't know. But then we're like, but if you have something like, I don't know, Spray of Barbs, anything that does double strike or triple strike even, like Whirling Strike, I think, you could easily just stack this with charge tokens.
Easily.
So we're like, okay, it's
how many did you have that one game?
I think I had 8 or 9 stacks. And it was against the turtles, so they weren't dying, but they also weren't dealing damage.
You were using them. Like, that's the thing. You were stacked that high and using them.
Yeah, it was really interesting, right? Because, like, even if they didn't do damage to me, or they did 1 damage, I'd be like, I'll just stack my charge and wait for those high dice crits to get me. So what we're doing is, so it's obviously not the Counter-Strike as a problem necessarily. It could be easily manipulated other ways. So we're just saying, let's just make an errata for Fortified Resolve. That'll solve the whole issue of reducing 2 damage on every attack that you can. So we're just saying, every round you can generate 1 charge token, and you can stack it up as much as you want, but now you can only get 1, so you have to still pick and choose.
It might also give us the opportunity to solve the biggest problem with this card.
Yeah.
There's a single problem with this card that is bigger than the rest of them.
There's no Monk on it?
It's Paladin and Siren on there with Monk only.
There's no Monk. I don't know if we're going to be able to fix that, but I'll have to talk and see if we have money for more art or something like that, because that'd be cool to have a budget to do that.
Around,
I mean, so basically, a lot of those games against swarms, an extra 2 or 3 damage from all the creatures, multiple times over a round, it'll look like a lot closer games against the Monk, and that's what we're hoping to see out of this. It is a level 1 4-mana spell. It shouldn't be as strong as it is.
Yep. That covers up. Oh wait, no, there's Pillar.
If anybody is a I don't know, graphic designer and wants to just make this into a Monk, I'm totally down. Just as just sourcing it out there. Just say it. Anyway, Pillar of Righteous Flame. It had some wording. Yeah, it had some wording that was weird. It probably doesn't change in most people's eyes. Basically, we worded it that when an enemy creature entered the zone, you could just remove and dissipate and attack any creature. So obviously that can be manipulated in weird ways. So we are hoping that this corrects it so that you have to attack that creature that entered the zone. And of course, this sentence I'm hoping, overrides the idea that the first sentence presents. But that's probably
it should fix it. But if you find a way to break it because of our crappy wording, please let us know.
Yeah, I think everyone understands how this is supposed to work, but
we're just trying to make it.
We're trying to make
actually
it
worded that way.
What up, Felix? So last thing, not least, sweeping clarification.
Oh yeah.
Do you have to hit yourself? Was people have asked, and we're saying no. If you end up doing a sweeping attack, for whatever reason, right now you have to actually attack your mage or whatever did the sweeping. You have to attack a friendly if there aren't enough creatures that are enemies to attack. So we're just saying you can stop the attack before you hit a friendly creature. I don't think that actually changes that much in terms of how people already played this card, or not card, how people already played sweeping. But we're just saying, no, you don't have to now.
The intent is for you not to have to hit yourself with your axe, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That's never been the intent. It's just poorly worded.
Or your Dragon Tail sweep can't actually hit yourself.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly.
Because that's weird.
Because, I mean,
Just imagining
Your
it.
foot
even
going
though you
around.
can, even though you can point a wand at a foot and make the foot do something, doesn't mean that your foot should be able to hit yourself in the head.
It's so funny.
Man.
What's funny is like that would be what you
Imagining.
intended to do. It wouldn't be an accident. You intended to do that. So
But,
yeah,
you know, all the sweeping things are costed to have sweeping, so you are wasting
you
mana
are.
or actions to get sweeping.
Yeah.
So it's
I think-
if you want to
yeah.
stop the attack, stop the attack.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. We're good now.
it's fine.
So that should be updated in the clarifications document.
At some point, we'll get there. Yeah.
It should
I think
already be there.
now.
I think I did it already.
Yeah.
So Shark, do you want to talk about Octagon stuff?
Cool. Octagon. So turns out the Holy Avengers used so little that some of the playtesting, or not the playtesting, but like the testing for when it should and shouldn't trigger weren't quite done. It was accidentally triggering on like walls that were attacking your friendly creatures, and it shouldn't do that. So now it doesn't. The monk. Well, originally when I pushed the first patch, everybody got prompted, but now it's just the monk who should get prompted for things that the monk is not trained in, whatever it ends up being. The monk will now pay upkeep for things like regrowth belt and things that are not monk, martial, or mind school, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Not trained.
So
I think.
that should automate, and if there's something wrong with that, let me know. The Elementalist Glyphs are now fairly automated. So on the attacking side, the fire and the air are the attacking glyphs, and if you have them activated, if you have the active ones on your stats card, and you haven't deactivated them this round, it'll track that. The automation will then spawn tokens on whatever you use your glyphs to benefit. So you'll be prompted, do you want to buff it with your glyph? And then when you say yes, you'll see an active air glyph appear on whatever creature or your mage that's using it, and then it'll immediately go inactive once the attack is finished. That's to remind you that you've already used it, so if you see a random inactive air glyph floating around, you know you used it already. Earth and water will prompt during the upkeep, and you have to move the token from your mage, not your stats card, but your mage card, to whatever your target is, and the earth will give a permanent +2 armor for that round while it's active. And the water one will actually, you have to manually heal that one. That one's on your own. You have to manually do that one right now.
So question, point of order.
Point of order.
We are saying that glyphs, each individual glyph can only be deactivated for any effect once per round. Are we saying that?
I believe that's on.
It's what's on the stats card.
Each glyph may be deactivated once per round with a mana cost. Yeah.
So
It's
So
okay.
the mana cost, it's
so
not
for a mana
may
cost,
be deactivated for the mana cost. It's deactivated, period, once per round.
that's what we're
So
trying to
for
figure.
instance, you cannot cast Amulet of Attunement, deactivate it, the fire glyph, or activate the fire glyph, deactivate the fire glyph for 2 mana, and then cast
2 fire spells.
fire 2 fires. Yeah, well, we'll just assume you can do this.
Yeah, just making
Right.
sure.
So,
So does the amulet count as an activation? Which you're looking
does
for?
the amulet prevent you, if you use the amulet to gain 2 mana, does it prevent you from using that rune for its effect by paying mana for that round?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Currently,
so-
as it's worded, no.
I have a fire glyph active. I deactivate it to gain mana. I then cast a fire spell and reactivate it. May I then attack something and pay 3 mana to gain +2 dice?
Yeah, that's been a big question, right? Because it's a difference between, is the amulet one of the glyph abilities that you're deactivating, or is it adding an ability to your stat card basically, or is it separate from that? Is that your question?
Yeah, so
Effectively.
that is the question. Are we
We haven't
adding,
figured that out yet.
right, does the
Yeah.
amulet modify the stat card, or is it completely independent from the stat card?
Yeah.
We are interested in feedback on that, though. I'm guessing the feedback's going to be along the lines of we shouldn't be able to do both.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the points that we've been considering for this are the Elementalist pays triple for any channeling increases.
Yep.
That are not the amulet. The amulet requires the casting of other spells in order to get its mana generation. And the glyph abilities are costed are ideally costed to give their effects based on mana paid. So to me, it's kind of, I don't know, does it need to be another ability added, or does it need to be
I think
another
honestly,
restriction on glyphs?
yeah, we could. I guess we need to look. That's really like. Let's actually talk about it after we finish this Octagon thing, because that's a whole point of order, I guess, to talk about what we're thinking about doing.
Sure.
So in light of that,
'cause
we'll
it's-
come back to you later with an answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll
that's
all
fine.
psychic network and figure out our answer right
Yeah,
now.
we got a bunch of
post the
stuff to
answer
talk
somewhere.
about and stuff that
Yeah.
we're thinking about for the future. So that'll just be one of the topics for sure.
Yeah, I'll just carry on with the Octagon stuff real quick.
Go for it.
The monk shouldn't prompt for defensive stance anymore. You shouldn't be able to go resilient. That's not a thing. Fortified Resolve, as mentioned earlier, will generate the charge tokens on its own, and it'll prompt for using them to reduce damage.
That's so.
That's
nice,
now automated. Sorry?
That's so nice that it does that.
Oh, I'm glad you like it. It was fun. The damage prompts are a bit chattier now. They tell you what the normal and critical damage were rolled on the dice, so you don't have to go searching for the dice behind the thing on the
that's
tiny
so
little
nice.
dice images.
Oh heck yeah!
I can't unfortunately unlock the window, so you can't go move around, but at least just gives you a little more information. And that's all the major updates for this one, I think. I'll push out a smaller patch that fixes things like the song channeling for Echo of Depths, and there's something else I just fixed a few minutes ago too that I'll push out when I push out the card update too. So
I think it was the spear. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out.
So
and then
we'll move on to feedback focus here.
Yeah, why don't we talk about why we're focusing on this feedback, which goes along with what you're saying, Puddin, especially with the
Right.
Elementalist.
So, right, we're noticing a very large dichotomy in Elementalist games right now. The Elementalist just stomps somebody, or the Elementalist gets murdered.
Yep.
It's very, very few games have been really tight, really tactical. And a lot of that seems to be predicated on when the Pandemonium dies, when or if the Pandemonium dies, and what strategies the Elementalist is employing. One of the reasons we see people just crumbling to the Elementalist is that they're not packing enough counters to Elementalist. And we are still of the opinion that there are enough counters out there that people should try first before we make more, or before we nerf more.
It is something we're keeping an eye on though closely.
Yeah, we are watching the back and forth between Elementalists and other mages right now.
And playing some again like 4 games earlier.
Yeah, you guys have more to add about that?
No, that's really it.
So
sorry, go ahead.
Right now, like one of the things we notice is that most elementals are going Pandemonium and Battleforge and Amulet. Those are usually in some order with that in the first 2 turns. And I mean, obviously you have like Rockall that people are doing, but there's also a lot of other creatures that people are doing as well that don't necessarily change the outcome. It's usually how the opponent responds. So I guess like when we're talking about, how do you counter it? Let's have a strategy lesson here, because I like talking about this stuff. So all right, Kat, you gotta stop doing that.
I'm gonna knock the internet out again.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
When we lose Coshade.
So what ends up happening is basically the Elementalist is usually going Battleforge and the Pandemonium, and what they're doing with that is that players are going, you're playing this, spawn point like card, so I'm gonna play more economy as well, and like they'll literally wait an extra turn of doing more economy when the Pandemonium's right there, and kind of what's happening is that the Elementalist, we have to. I think honestly the way to fight him right now is to go, there's the Pandemonium, I know it's coming out, and in pretty much every case we saw, there are exceptions, it was right in front of them, and they went, I'm going to cast economy instead, and the
instead
thing
of
about
preparing to knock it out right then, which
and the thing
can
about
be
economy is the thing about Pandemonium is that it's a very front-loaded card. You like start getting those discounts immediately. And the idea is that it's supposed to be taken out earlier, because if you let it just stay on there for longer, they're gonna keep getting that 4 extra channel whatever around.
Of note, they're
Right.
getting a mana advantage, but they're not getting the action advantage that all of the other spawn points
That's
give.
exactly the thing. So if they manage to get it out there, and they're casting things like rock golems, this is your chance to take it out and then not to capitalize it on anything that's going to really affect a larger part of the game.
Yeah.
And
But if you let them get like a Stormfront and a Wind Elemental and the Rock Golems that protect it,
then it's
You're-
one of those things that we're hoping that it's weak enough that you can kill it, but strong enough that you can't just kill it that people don't want to take that card anymore. And we're
Yeah.
trying to like play that line where the Elementalist is basically really strong when it hits an earlier timing attack than most typical spawn point books. So if you're playing a spawn point book against it, just think of it more as, I don't know, like a warlord casting, 3 big bridge trolls and walking towards you. That timing that hits, it's similar to that with that Pandemonium. And how you respond to that is really important, I think. So I guess that's kind of like what I'm seeing versus what I'd like to see how people try to respond to it.
yeah, we're seeing a lot of people ignore it and then get burned by that.
Yeah,
and we're not seeing adaptation much either.
And my worry here is that we nerf it basically to be like, it's a spawn point, and now it's nerfed back to a spawn point, but it's not as good as that. And then players that do rush the Pandemonium because they know this timing that's hit, basically always win.
Yeah.
And that's something we don't want to do either. So we're sort of playing this weird pocket timing, if that's actually clear at all with how I just described everything.
I'd like to also point out that if the Elementalist gets 3 creatures out with Pandemonium discount, that is an entire turn of channeling for someone who's played mana crystals.
Yes.
Yeah. So what you are doing by spending mana to take out the Pandemonium is reducing his channel by 2.
He already invested 10
for
mana
the rest of
into
the game.
Yeah, he already invested 10 mana into it. And he has to invest more full actions in order to benefit from it. So, I mean, think about it like that when you're thinking about how much can you spend to evenly draw against it.
We're also considering tweaks to it. We're not trying to say just deal with it, but
we're
trying to see some better data on how relatively strong is it because of the fact we're not seeing anybody actually try to counter it. At least not the way we expect you to counter it.
We gave you
Or
a
even
hammer.
any kind of counter.
Use
Yeah.
it.
We gave
Yeah,
you
like there's a hammer there. Go hit it with a hammer.
The
Go hit it with a
hammer
couple
wrecks
hammers.
it.
Like
The hammer
there's
wrecks it.
there's a few ways to attack it that we're not seeing people even try using, and it's probably because they haven't been in the meta in a long time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's okay, but it may still end up being too strong, but the data we're receiving isn't showing that. It's showing that it's really strong when it's not countered, which what isn't.
So what I'm hoping that if we do balance down the Elementalist more, like nerf it, it would be something like lowering an armor point on Pandemonium. Something where, like, if you aren't able to kill it within a time frame with reasonable, tactics, that we're suddenly like, okay, let's actually make it so it's within that frame, so that if you choose to do this economy play, you'll always get sort of like behind in that sense because you're not reacting to your opponent. But if you choose to actually engage it properly, then you'll be able to make it even, and then continue the game as normal.
Yeah. The other options are like increase the mana by 1 or 2, like make it ores. There's all kinds of options. We have a lot of small tweaks we can do that might change a little bit.
We've talked about
but
making
we're trying to
level
hold off
3,
until we see.
like all level 3 ors instead of it being level 4 1 1 1 1 1. So that would reduce the amount of natural fury you can actually do. As like okay, you killed this, and here's my counter to that. But I think that's more of like the next line of thinking after we get past this.
Yeah, we'll get there at some point, but let's see the data first on what it is now.
Yeah.
Go attack it. Go try killing it. I mean, I've seen a few where people try, and I've seen some success. I've seen some not, but those games have been the best games we've seen between Elementalist and somebody else. They're the few times that it isn't a blowout one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say that, but like when you do attack them, it can be a blowout for the non-Elementalist too. We've seen that a few times.
Oh yeah, it absolutely can.
So.
Yeah. So that's
that covers about what we're looking for here.
That's what we're seeing.
For Elementalist.
With the Monk, we obviously gave it a nerf. It doesn't have a super powered defensive enchantment now. So I'm hoping that against swarms you have more incentive to kill the swarm rather than just sort of like tank, kill the mage.
Yep.
So we're hoping to more interaction there. And otherwise, Monk is feeling pretty good.
Pretty level. We did buff the monk a little bit too, so it's not just the nerf. We also buffed it by 5 points.
We gave her 5 points. So
If that makes no difference, we'd like to know, but I'm betting it makes a few cards difference that might actually help out.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're only going to see minor tweaks, if any, from the monk from now on.
Yeah. Structurally, she's in place.
Yeah, she's feeling pretty good.
It's going to take 5 more copies of Hammer Jammers.
When it comes to Siren, we have gotten a lot of games in Siren. I actually really appreciate that. She's actually seeming... She might need something more, but in terms
she's
of
better than she
economy,
was, but that's not necessarily high
she's
praise.
getting all the creatures she wants to out. She's doing everything she wants to do. It's just she seems to still be failing in some aspects, and that could just be people need more games with Siren, so they know like this is the appropriate creature response to this and that sort of thing. But in terms of a spawn point build, she's great. If you haven't tried Leviathan against Elementalist, it's freaking sweet, man.
It is pretty good as long as you play it correctly.
Yeah, like you literally devour the rocks. So if you're worried about, I don't know, Alter the Avant-Garde and Rock Golem, like Leviathan literally obliterates them. So
Devour will make it so you cannot respawn those elementals.
Yeah. Also, it's just really good with Battle Fury or something like that against a spawn point, which is good against every spawn point, honestly. But there's a lot of other things we've seen. So
other cards with Devour are also interesting tactics we'd like to see get used against the Elementalist. Like, what happens if you devour them? Now he doesn't get to reanimate.
Does anybody else want to add anything to things we want to see?
Well, we didn't reiterate this point number 2 here, that when you're fighting the monk, you cannot rely on lockdown, and that is probably not going to change.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to do some soft lockdown, like slow or stagger or poison gas cloud, or something that to see if you can keep her away.
Yeah, if you're relying on tar traps, tangle vines, like in mass in your book, things like that, it's just not going to work against the monk. So you're gonna have to figure something out if you do want to keep those.
In my opinion, your better bet's probably something like Slam, mini slams, or
Daze.
Daze is also helpful. Yeah.
Even Stagger.
Where's that card? Blind. Blind is what I'm thinking of.
Blind's excellent.
Pretty good against. Yeah.
Stagger.
Agony. Puddnhead's favorite card.
Curse of Weakness. I mean, there's lots of things.
I don't understand.
Just Agony the Stormfront.
If nobody realizes how ridiculously overpowered Agony is, they're not playing this game properly.
It's such a good card.
It is really good. It's probably on those, like, we probably should make it consistent too if we can. But
upkeep 3, people would still take it.
It's actually really interesting watching the monk, because like a lot of players, when they don't realize when you lose your quick cast, just how much that affects you.
Oh
it really burns, man.
Too.
Yeah, that is probably one of my favorite trade-offs.
Yeah,
in Mage Wars
it's
is
so
extra
fun.
action marker but no quick cast.
Yeah, it's so fun, man.
It changes the game so dramatically for that mage and the opponent as well. It's just like, whoa, this is a brand new game.
Yeah, right. It feels that way, doesn't it?
Everything I thought I knew, I don't anymore.
Right.
Anything else you want to talk about? Like things you guys want to see, stuff like that.
I'd be interested in comments from the peanut gallery.
All right. Well, let's just finish it up with the card contest here.
Oh, right. I was going to say we can ask the chat for questions if you want, but
let's do that in a second. We have a level 4 knight soldier, war creature. So our contest for next week, I'm probably going to post that up soon. We haven't figured out exactly how we're going to do this. I might fill in with a bunch of ideas that people have thought about, and then we vote on that. We'll make it so that it's easier for you guys to figure out. But we have a level 4 dude, so he's going to be pretty good.
This is his ability. I've got it right here.
Lay it on blank, man.
If knight is damaged and recovers or removes damage to over maximum, it gets a defense counter, a block counter. that acts as a block spell.
That
So
sounds interesting.
if you actually overheal him, he gets a block for
He's
the.
like,
You're gonna roll all
heck
blanks when you try to
yeah.
heal him, right?
Yeah, of course I'm going to roll all blanks.
Let's give him a charge.
But it won't stop me from trying to use him. But that way, right? This guy could go in a holy book or a dark book and get reanimated and reconstructed beyond his maximum as well.
Ooh, that's
So-
cool.
That might be
Anyway.
fun.
There's a lot of ideas, obviously, but we'll figure it
No,
out.
that'd be kinda-
Don't do it. It's a terrible idea.
We have
Terrible
a
idea.
level 5 dark. Get out of here. We have a level 5 dark or holy creature. I took the
Oh,
liberty
thank
of
you.
adding a very fun idea, and that is it's an angel if you're holy, dark if you're a demon. I
Would you
gave
like
it
to wipe
flying.
some tears, Shark?
I'm just glad it's not like half of one and 2/3 of or like
I gave it flying
programming that would suck.
because it has wings. We're giving it flying, guys. I'm sorry. But obviously we have things like a fire trait with it. We have something going on with that. Maybe something with Gate to Hell. There's obviously more traits that we can add because it's equivalent to a, Valshalla, Samandriel. I want to make it better than those so that you guys actually feel like you can use this, obviously. But that's what we're looking at right now. And next week's voting is going to be probably more trying to hone it exactly where we want to be. I'm hoping to wrap this up either by this week's voting or next week's voting so we can start play testing it and getting it balanced.
Yeah.
But think about if it's a demon, how much that syncs with in your books. I think it's going to be a pretty fun card.
Got a parody song in my head now. Kind
Uh-oh.
of rewrite the cards.
So that's pretty much it. So
Yeah, that's all we have planned. Do we have any questions from the peanut gallery?
if you guys have any
Chat.
questions, feel free to ask now. If you are totally
Yeah,
upset
clarifications,
that we
were we
didn't
not
change
clear on stuff?
something, let us know. I'm still not convinced 135 is. I think it might be too much, but we'll figure it out.
I don't
on the
know. We'll see.
Elementalist.
That one's on the list that we're looking for later, but I don't think it's a problem.
So yeah, I mean, how
Go ahead.
were you guys feeling about the Elementalist, just in general?
He's a lot closer than he was. He was absolutely blowing people out of the water early, which we kind of expected. But seeing how that was happening allowed us to target the specific problems. So I think they're closer. I wouldn't call him still too strong yet, but there is potential there. I recognize there's
Okay.
potential. I don't know that I
Yeah.
would say that he is. It's more of I'm gonna need some more practice and some more thought on it, but I know how to have beaten him in a couple games. A couple of times it went wrong tonight, but I mean, I don't know that I ever felt overwhelmed or overmatched.
That's fair. Yeah, that's actually really fair.
I am a bit on the out of practice side, so it could just be some of that. I don't know if it was play mistakes that lost it to me, or because Monk is just that much better. Not Monk, sorry. Elementalist is just that much better. I don't think it's that last part, but I guess there's technically still potential for it, I guess.
There are some significantly differing opinions on him right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of the times when you do employ the counters to what a typical Elementalist does, I've seen enough wins to be like, all right, that can be done.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how flexible the Elementalist is because we're seeing like 2 builds, but maybe that's indicative of a problem too. So.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Elementalists win with Natural Fury being used.
Yeah, Natural Fury's been way better than the first iteration.
Yeah, I'd like to see what other people feel about Natural Fury. I'd like to see some comments on it and whether or not they enjoyed it or thought it was too cheap or too expensive. I think it's pretty close to what's going to be really good.
If it's not there, it's close.
I have also not seen Resonance very much, and I am still.
I saw it a couple times tonight.
That's good. That's good. I'd love to see.
I'm
games.
noticing as players
good.
use the Elementalist more, they're using Resonance.
Yeah, and it's one of those, like you originally had thought about it, is that they're using it to save mana so they can Natural Fury the next turn.
Yeah.
Or something like Cast the Guy.
Exactly.
Perfect. A couple of times. And that's the intent, and the interesting part is the whole no melee.
The no melee
The
attack.
no built-in melee attack makes it interesting from both the Elementalist side and the opponent's side, because suddenly guarding against the Elementalist is only semi-effective. It's good for a hinder, But unless you're intercepting, then the guard doesn't do anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Although if the elemental steals a melee attack, maybe, but most of the time I'm seeing them steal ranged attacks.
Huh.
Especially if there's a guard, because they have that option to just steal ranged attack. I say steal, but like borrow.
Grab.
Resonate.
Resonate. Yes.
Speaking of, we need to probably change the name of that.
Why?
Because the elemental staff's attack is called elemental resonance.
For some reason.
Okay, elemental staff is a piece of garbage.
How is
Just
the
throw
staff-
it away.
Actually, it
How
may
is
not be
the
that
staff
bad.
resonating when you hit something? It's
It may not be that
I
bad.
hit
If you look at
with
you
resonance.
activate a glyph to get a 7-up defense. That's not terrible.
That's not bad. Yeah.
It's actually, I don't think we've seen enough people using it,
The
and I
staff's
think
not
it's
bad.
better than it's. Yeah, I think it's better than it's giving credit for. It doesn't look like much, but with the amount of ways currently to activate your glyphs,
hmm
I play a mage that has a built-in defense, and it's garbage.
Wow.
I'm not going to be casting a card
personal problem.
that gives me defense that's also going to be
Have
Have you
garbage.
tried rolling better than 6?
No, trying rolling better doesn't work.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the stat's pretty good, and I think them having the same name might get confusing, but it may not be that big a deal. Yeah.
Okay.
We got any other?
I sent it a few games with Resonance Strat. I think I watched those,
yep.
Vargas. Those were
Oh,
awesome.
cool.
I watched a couple of them.
I know
Maybe
I have
more.
I have a Iron Golem strat that's using something.
Yeah,
like
that's a
that
good one.
right
I've
now.
got one. Dude, I love stealing the Stormfront elemental stuff.
Stormfront. Yeah,
That lightning attack is fun.
it really is, man.
What are you doing the 4 damage to? Out of curiosity.
Oh, yeah, me. I'm doing it to my mage most of the time.
Oh, you. Okay.
Or like split 3 and 1, because I'll typically have a regrowth belt out and the mail. So I'll take at least 2, probably 3, put 1 on that guy. Depending on what they're targeting, you swap it around a little bit and make it so you can regen the damage as much as you can, which is vulnerable to dissolves and half a dozen other things, but it's still fun to shoot things with lightning.
Oh yeah.
So
Too bad you can't steal the damage barrier on the fire elemental.
That'd be fun.
yeah, I guess you can't.
No, you can't. Which is unfortunate, but you know.
Actually, you theoretically kind of can. You just have to cast it, and it's called Circle of Fire.
Bam,
Jiggly.
bam.
It's in school. Hey.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
Yeah,
we've been streaming
that's
for
about all
about
we
an
got.
hour, so it's a good time to stop. So yeah, that's Dev Diary number. Oh, we got a question.
Oh, we got one now.
The marker
Oh.
from Academy. I don't know if I could change the upkeep phase instead of. We're probably not going to change it to the upkeep phase instead of quick, only because that would require us
Limited
to
slots.
reprint a bunch of things. You know, Montgomery's not good. Yeah, I don't
Limited
think
print slots is gonna be
the
problem
fact that
there.
it doesn't give you an upkeep is the reason to take it. Honestly,
I mean, that's true
Um,
too. But just on the same token, the Force Master armor, is that Force Master only?
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well,
Yeah.
never mind. Not as cool.
I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where there is a running away strat I guess you can do with a monk that involves then taking off all the conditions, which is why I don't like the way that card was made. But you know, if we end up with extra cards, that'll probably be on the list. But there's literally like tons of cards to errata.
It's
to
strictly
make it
slot
better.
dependent, but
Yeah.
You know.
Honestly, with my monk games, I've been considering just running different armor, just because it's better, and the upkeep one doesn't really bother me that much.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah, same.
Leviathan scale.
I still haven't seen a game that has 4 or 5 upkeep a turn for the monk.
Right, and I think partly the reason for that is because of the 100 spellbook points. Is that like if you
Yeah.
want
It's tougher
1
to
or
splash.
2 dissolves, 1 or 2 dispels, you know, if you want those basic things there that you kind of have to have, you
that takes
can't,
up a lot of your out of school
you
stuff. Yeah,
can't really take other out of school stuff. So you're just like, all right, I guess I'll just go with this, you know.
yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
So that's kind of why we're.
Well, it's important to know though that
Yes,
do we need to put that on there or not?
Yeah. So it's one of those things that like he might end up going, or she might end up going back to 110 or even 120. You know, it's very possible.
That's an interesting point. Leviathan scale armor would be good with her, even if you're paying the upkeep, because the lack
Absolutely.
of, or
Yep.
I guess not lack of, but potential lack of slam.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Colossus belt too. I
Oh,
would
yeah.
There you
totally
go.
take Colossus belt. With
And I
the monk.
think it's because of the lack of points that people aren't doing that. Actually,
I could see that because those are what? Colossus spells level 2, so that's a 4-pointer.
Is it level 2? I thought it was
Leviathan's
level
level.
1.
No, it's 1 point each, so it's 2 points each. So.
Oh, is it? Okay. I forgot.
But regardless,
remember.
like, I'm actually curious if people start taking more, and I'd love to get feedback then. If you guys had an extra 5 or, I don't know, up to 15 points, maybe you take a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll talk about it.
Cool. Covers all that I had. So.
Thanks for hanging in there with us.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. Thanks for all the help playtesting. We appreciate all of it. Seriously, we watched, if not every game, then between the three of us, we've watched every game, and we watched every game individually as well. So.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm a slacker.
So for get out of here, Puddin. So for anybody that is curious, you can always go to that Dropbox to see the latest cards, the current Octagon images.
They will be updated by the end of tomorrow.
Yep, check us out. You know, if you haven't gone to our Discord, there's the whole Mage Wars community Discord. I think it's in every single video, a link there. If it's not, I need to fix
I think
that.
so.
If it's not, just yell at me. I'll fix it. And you know, we're always doing these at least once a week. So I guess we'll see you guys, you know, in the next 5 to 7 days, something like that.
Yep, we'll be around playtesting.
Heck yeah, and we're always online. I feel like one of us usually is, so you know, we'll say hi if you say hi to us. So bye.
I'm making no such promises.
I am promising for Puddin. He's going
He'll
to do
deflect
that.
the Coshade.
I'm contractually obligated now. Dang it.
Oh no.
All right, you guys all take care. Thanks for joining us, and see you guys next week.
Bye.
And